It's an interesting topic and one that we get questions about often. So does anyone have any specific questions about pre or probiotics before we get started?
Oh, so there's no video?
Okay. All right. Everybody's just ready to listen and learn. And then we're going to talk a little bit about a recipe at the end, which we always do. We like to make it practical with food. So I'm going to just jump right into this gut health discussion here. And one thing I want to start out by saying is that we're learning a lot about this. Every year, there's new research that comes out about the microbiome and gut health. So the information that we have now is probably going to change and be amended, and we're just finding out that there's really good information that can really help our short-term and long-term health. So I think this whole area is really exciting and an exciting field of research. So, you know, we hear it a lot. What is the microbiome, but what really is it? That's the community of microorganisms that live in your gut or in your intestinal tract. And everyone has that. Plants, animals, soils, oceans have their own microbiome. And the largest microbial population in the human body is located there. So that's where most of the microbes live. And these pre and probiotics can help maintain your physical, and now we're finding out even mental health. So that's really exciting that what we eat can even affect our mental health. And that's something they're finding out more about. So the microbiota is actually the community of the bacteria found in the human body. 10 trillion to 100 trillion bacteria living in our gut. Over 160 different species. So I think that's really amazing. And that's a lot of bacteria. So growing evidence is showing that different microbiota species work together to benefit our health. And I think a lot of times we get questions about that. And we were actually just talking about that today, about probiotics and prebiotics, but also people sometimes think that you can only get them from capsules or tablets. So I really like to remind, and we're going to talk about the food sources that you can get pre and probiotics from. And those can really help prevention of diabetes, obesity, heart disease, cancer, and possible depression, even helping out with IBS, IBD, skin conditions, weight management, and possibly now we're finding out about even cognitive changes. So the research is really showing us a lot of information. It can decrease colon cancer risk and also Crohn's. The healthy adult gut will have better nutritional status, fewer comorbidities, and greater overall health. So, wow, that's a lot. So it's really important for us to know a little bit how we can affect that and what we can do with our food and also with possible tablet forms. So let's first talk about good versus bad bacteria. The prebiotics act as fertilizer for the good bacteria or the probiotics. So prebiotics are complex carbohydrates in the form of that indigestible plant fiber. So dietary fiber, this sounds a little bit technical here for a minute, but just to let you know, things that have prebiotics are like today, we're going to talk about soup that has barley. Things that are higher in fiber, like wheat germ, and I'm going to give you some more examples. And you can see here on my chart, asparagus. Usually you consider asparagus kind of fibrous, same with leeks. So things that have those fibers are what feed the probiotics. So that dietary fiber can be broken down and fermented by the good bacteria in your colon. The prebiotics are found in those foods, and they even include honey, tomato, rye, peas, beans, and bananas. And our soup today has beans too. So just a little bit more technical information about how this works. So during the fermentation process, short-chain fatty acids are released, and those really help decrease the pH, meaning they really support the healthy immune system and stabilize things like our blood glucose and our cholesterol. So those really help get rid of or balance out the bad bacteria. So those short chain fatty acids are really helpful in our system. Some of the prebiotics are listed as inulin, and then you can see the other ones there, the fructo oligosaccharides, the galacto oligosaccharides, cellulose, or fructans. So those are words sometimes you will see on the label, sometimes you won't. But those are the parts that help balance out the good and the bad bacteria. So they're natural and non-digestible, but they do stimulate the growth of that beneficial gut bacteria or the probiotics. So here on the right, you can see those purple boxes, those are some of the things that these prebiotics really help with. So a lot of times we think prebiotics and probiotics are like kefir and things like that, but we're going to talk about how those are more probiotics and these non-digestible fibers are the prebiotics. So they help, as I mentioned, prevent the growth of the bad bacteria. They improve immune function, which is really good to know because we know that chronic inflammation can lead to obesity, diabetes, even some cancers. They help make enzymes to digest the food, and they fix the gut microbiome sometimes after antibiotic therapy. So those are all really good things for us to know. So we talked about some food sources already, but if you look at these, you can see that they have some kind of fiber, really. Bananas, onions, garlic, leeks, asparagus, artichokes, I feel like are really fibrous. Soybeans, and then whole wheat foods and wheat germ. So those are going to all have some prebiotics. A lot of people feel like bananas may be constipating or give your gut problems, but really bananas have soluble and insoluble fiber, so they really can help with diarrhea or constipation. So there are many fruits and vegetables and whole grains that contain these prebiotics, and here apples is another example. You can also get prebiotics through supplements, but we usually suggest food first. Food is our best choice. So the recommendation for prebiotics is incorporating these fruits and vegetables, whole grains into your daily meal plan to ensure that you're getting enough of those. And that will help boost up that probiotic. Does anybody have any questions about prebiotics before we move on to probiotics? Was everyone aware of prebiotics and probiotics, but the prebiotics, I feel like we know less about that, right?
I have a question. The only thing that I see on the screen is a picture, a diagram. I don't see any of the charts that you're throwing up. It says, "What is the gut microbiome?" That's the one that I see, that I've seen since the start.
Okay.
I don't know if that's with everybody else or not.
Okay. Is anybody else seeing the slides?
I see the slides.
Yeah, I just see the slides too.
Okay. All right.
Me too. I just see the slides.
Initially, I didn't see the slides. They were like in the lower right-hand corner and I had to click on it to open it, to open up the slideshow.
Okay, open up the lower right. Okay, I will look. Thank you.
I see them.
Always tricks. We can keep helping each other, right? Every day there's a new.
On the right slide, you can take it. It says take control, and you can take control. Like we're on slide 9, and for some reason it happened to me one time. I think the last one I was at, I was like got to slide 3 and it stopped moving. So I just hit take control, and every time you it didn't go. I just hit it myself and it went to the next slide.
Our
So-
coordinator here, Ashley, says that that may or may not work because we have to have control to be able to switch the slides, but it really depends on the situation. So thanks for sharing tips, everyone. Are you seeing the slides now, Renee, or still working on it? Let us know if you're having trouble. Anybody else have any
I
questions?
just found it. Thank you.
Good, yay. Well, thanks everyone. It's teamwork.
Love it.
Are there any other, are there any
Thank you.
questions about, oh, pardon me? Go ahead. Did someone have a question? As far as the prebiotics go, is anyone using any of those foods? And did you know that those were prebiotics that could help feed the probiotics?
I use those foods. Actually, I have oatmeal a lot for breakfast with blueberries and eat a lot of them. I had no idea they were prebiotics.
Right?
Prebiotics have always been confusing to me.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of information out there, but we don't really know how it's helping us. And I really like this topic because I feel like if we understand how it's helping, we're more likely to incorporate some of those foods. This is all part of the Mediterranean diet and lifestyle that we recommend, which is more chicken and fish, more fruits and vegetables, whole grains in moderation, low-fat dairy, and then just incorporating the healthy fats like olive oil, avocado, peanut butter, also in moderation. But it's nice to know how our food is working for us so that we can incorporate those. Excuse me, I think oatmeal is a great example of a way that you can incorporate it easily. So I love that. So probiotics are the actual live bacteria. We all have this microbiome and these probiotics, but some of us have more than others. And sometimes we have the so-called bad bacteria that's taking over. So we want this good bacteria to help with our gut health. The live bacteria or the yeast that are good for you are in that digestive tract. So they're dependent on these prebiotics as their main food source. So if you're not having those plant foods to help grow those probiotics, they're not going to give you that same good bacteria in your gut. You can also find them as supplements that contain the live active bacteria. And a couple of examples would be that you would want to look for the lactobacillus or the bifidobacterium that are the most well-known types of probiotics. And those you can have in a tablet or capsule form. So yogurt, we know a lot about yogurt and that is a probiotic. And I have a couple of examples here to show you. But other fermented probiotics are aged cheeses, kefir, which is a yogurt drink, kimchi, which is an Asian form of cabbage where it's fermented, sauerkraut, miso, which is a soy-based sauce or ingredient, pickled vegetables, including pickles, and tempeh. So those are all some good things that we can incorporate, especially as I mentioned, after illness. It might not be a bad idea to have some of these foods. We might not be in the mood for pickles all the time, but maybe we can have some aged cheese. We want to look for the lactobacillus milk, maybe the cheeses. Kombucha is another list on here. We've got a couple of different yogurts listed here, the Activia and also the Chobani. Does anyone use yogurt with probiotics? And have you found it makes a difference?
I love yogurt, so I usually have one almost every day.
Okay. And some people don't realize that you can have the probiotics or those active cultures, even if it doesn't say Activia. Is there a certain yogurt that works for you?
Yes, I like the Chobani less sugar.
Okay, good, good. Chobani is that Greek yogurt. So sometimes regular yogurt will have about 8 grams of protein. The Chobani will have maybe 12 to 15 grams. So that Greek yogurt is nice, especially if you're having it in the morning. There are some studies that show if we have 30 grams of protein at breakfast, that it can really help with weight management. So it's nice to have an option for that extra protein.
How about Too Good yogurt?
Yeah, the Too Good is also good. There are yogurts out there that have some artificial sweeteners, and those are also okay, and we'll probably have some. I personally like the lower fat ones. That would be like a plain yogurt.
Yeah.
I don't feel like we want to have too many artificial sweeteners, just kind of go with the lower fat. But if you only like the sweeter ones, just look, usually the label should say, the dietary guidelines recommend less than 6 grams of added sugar per serving is helpful, excuse me, or is recommended to make sure we're not overdoing it with sugar content. So this is one probiotic that is recommended. Another one is called Culturelle. And we know that we're going to talk a little bit about how to figure out which probiotic supplements are helpful. Food sources, as I mentioned, are the very healthy and should be attempted to be consumed first because they're giving us a lot of micronutrients. They're giving us a lot of nutrition and some things we don't even know about. So we want to make sure that we're going with food first. For example, milk has the perfect triumvirate of calcium, vitamin D, and magnesium for calcium absorption. So that's important to make sure that we are addressing that and getting food. But if you can't or you need extra help, the supplements may contain a variety or a combination of different strains of bacteria, the bifidobacterium, the lactobacillus, and then the Saccharomyces. We didn't talk about that one earlier, but it is helpful. So let's see here. The screen just changed a little bit, so I'm just going to make sure we're not missing anything here. Okay, so the Align is one, Culturelle is another. And you want to just make sure to check with your dietitian or your physician to see whether or not the probiotic is a good idea. Now, for those that are in the hospital, unfortunately, we wouldn't recommend a probiotic. It can change your microbiome and your digestive tract. And if you're already under stress, it might not be a good idea to start something new. If you're in treatment, then probiotics are okay to take. And usually we talk to someone individually and recommend them on a case-by-case basis. So the probiotics are something that can be okay. If you feel like you wanted to start it at the beginning of treatment, we usually wouldn't recommend starting something new, and the APNs usually are recommending not to start something new or a new regimen because it may affect your digestive tract and the treatment may as well. So it's something that if you're already taking it, that might be okay. And especially if you feel like you have irritable bowel syndrome or something like that, and the probiotic is making you more regular, then it may be something that we want to continue. So it's important to talk with your team and just make sure that you're on the right track. And if you're not taking the probiotic, you may want to go ahead and, look at those food sources. So you want to choose a supplement that has been tested or patented for humans and successful, and they also need to have live active cultures. at least 1 billion colony forming units, so CFUs. So you want to look for some that have 1 billion or more. It is time released, so you may want to make sure that you're taking it at the right time of the day. So look for the instructions on the packet and make sure that you're following those instructions. And then also they need to be refrigerated, and that's because of those live cultures. So if they're, they may not be as active if they are not refrigerated. So another factor would be choosing products that have a certified supplement seal. We have a supplement called Enteraid that we recommend sometimes that is a new supplement if people are having ongoing diarrhea. You take it twice a day for 2 weeks, and it helps change your microbiome to help with a protein as opposed to a carbohydrate like in Gatorade. So, but you have to take it twice a day for 2 weeks, and that's just a start to kind of get you going. So I love that you had patience to stick with it, and now that you're feeling better, and to know that there are products out there, but also that our food will make a difference. So the other thing that I wanted to recommend before we leave this slide is that there are certifications and things that you want to look for. However, there's not a guarantee of safety or effectiveness of these products, and that's because I mentioned that we have a lot of ongoing research. So we're, everyone is still kind of working together to see how we can best use the pre and probiotics, especially as the form of the capsule. So how can we overall protect our gut microbiome? And we talked a little bit about the Mediterranean diet and lifestyle. We want to try to eat these prebiotic foods. So we talked about the fibrous ones like the artichokes, the bananas, asparagus, oats, apples. And then we also want to have whole grains. They have those beneficial carbs that are digested by the gut bacteria. They help benefit our weight management, but also decrease cancer risk, diabetes, and other chronic disease. We want to try to attempt a plant-based diet. Now, a lot of people think a plant-based diet means only plants, but the Mediterranean diet is a plant-based diet, including some chicken and fish, and even occasional red meat is okay. But what we want to do is try to focus more on plants because we know we're getting all of that good nutrition. And those high fiber foods that we talked about are mainly plants. If you think about the cell, the chlorophyll cell that we learned about in grade school, that fibrous wall, that's what we want in our diet. These really help reduce harmful bacteria such as E. coli. They reduce inflammation and can also reduce blood cholesterol. And these foods are usually rich in polyphenols that we know will decrease inflammation. So that includes, a lot of people like to hear it when I said red wine, green tea, dark chocolate, olive oil, and whole grains. These are broken down by the microbiome to stimulate that healthy gut bacteria. So how can we protect it? How can we protect that gut biome? A lot of times we say eat from the rainbow, and I really like that phrase because it does help you remember that we need a diverse group of foods. A lot of people say, well, sometimes I want to have cake, or sometimes, I'm eating kale every day. And I usually recommend, and the recommendation from the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics is to get a variety of foods. We want to make sure that we have a diverse group of foods, and that will give us a diverse group of nutrients. So trying legumes or beans or fruits, all of those foods contain lots of fiber, but they also have other nutrients. Eat some fermented foods that we talked about, like yogurt, sauerkraut, kefir. Those are going to help feed that or help with the probiotic in our gut and give them more support. Limit your intake of artificial sweeteners. And we talked about that a little bit. The artificial sweeteners can stimulate growth of unhealthy bacteria in the gut. And so we want to make it difficult for those healthy bacteria to grow and not have things that are going to turn it in the way that we don't want.
Excuse me, would your artificial sweeteners include stevia?
Well, yes, they include
Okay.
all of the artificial sweeteners.
But it's plant-based.
Stevia it's plant-based, but it still is different from what our gut knows.
Okay.
But I'm not saying that it should never be taken, okay?
Okay.
Moderation is good. And if we have stevia occasionally because we want something sweet and that's keeping us from having sweetened high sugar foods all day long, well, then that's good.
Yeah, I
So-
drink 1 cup of coffee a day and I don't put sugar in it. I use stevia instead,
Okay.
like less than a teaspoon.
And you just in your coffee and that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. See, I think that that's fine because you're using it in moderation.
Okay.
When for NutraSweet, for example, there were some studies that said you had to have 16 cans of diet soda in a day to start having some of the problems that you might have with that. So I think that just goes back to moderation, and adding it in occasionally is okay. And if you have sugar occasionally, that's okay. But we don't want to have soda all day long where our gut is not getting the nutrients that it needs and it's not helping to grow that healthy bacteria. Depression is actually thought to be your body's response to swelling from bad bacteria in certain cases. So the part of our mental health that we're learning about is very interesting. Also about weight management. There are some studies that are showing that it can affect the appetite control in your brain based on your gut health. So how incredible. Everything is so related. But I'm glad you brought that up. I think it's important to consider all of these options in moderation. And then how can we include both in the diet, the prebiotics and the probiotics? So just some ideas are thrown out here, having bananas on top of your yogurt, for example. So the yogurt may have that live culture. The banana is going to have that probiotic that's help feeding that good bacteria. So that's like a nice partnership. Stir fry asparagus with onion, garlic, and tempeh, for example. So tempeh would be one of those fermented foods, a good alternative, soy-based, to get some protein. Add kimchi or sauerkraut to your salads, or I think too, it could be great in soups. I'm just learning more about kimchi now, and there's so many different flavors from kimchi and some different types. So it's something that we can start to learn more about. We should do a whole class on kimchi. Add barley to soups. So that's what we did today, and I'll show you one way that you can do that. And then try adding artichokes to salads or some of those other fibrous foods that can help you. Add onion and garlic to eggs, soups, or pasta. I think we forget about eggs as a great vessel for some of these fibrous foods and also some of those great anti-inflammatory foods like zucchini and tomatoes, and even adding a little turmeric, right? When we're roasting our vegetables and then throwing those in a sandwich. So all of those can be helpful to include both the prebiotic and the probiotic. So how can we put this all together? The microbiome can significantly be altered by the diet. And that's why we're on staff at the Cancer Center, because they know and recognize that nutrition is important throughout the process, and nutrition during survivorship, which is right after diagnosis, and also during treatment, and even before treatment. So the gut microbiome plays an important role as well, and it helps control digestive issues, and it also helps benefit your immune system. So I think that's the part that we're really excited about now, and we're finding out more about. The healthy balance of those microbes in the intestines can offer a variety of benefits and also decrease risk of cancer. So we want to really support the healthy growth of those microbes and eat a variety of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, and fermented foods to make sure that we're getting that overall gut health that we want.